Good evening, very warm welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our usual Monday night roundup. A slightly condensed, slightly shorter version than normal due to the international break, but still plenty to focus on across the non-league scene. And of course, our League Two side in Bradford City in action at the weekend. I'm Chris Bell, and as always, delighted to be joined by Stephen Downs and Gareth Walker. How are we, gents? Are we well?
Not so bad, mate. Are you?
Yes, not too bad. How are we, Downs? Are you okay, mate?
Yeah, not bad. We're the usual ones that stick up the show out with, you know what I mean? The rest of them couldn't be bothered. They've taken the international break off.
Gaz, I mean, we'll talk Bradford City in depth a little bit later on, but have you recovered from the heartbreak of a 99th minute equalising goal for Colchester?
We're kind of used to it now. I think Jamie Rayner had a stat on the radio earlier on that we concede something like the third highest amount of post 85-minute goals out of, I don't know, there's some random stat anyway. But yeah, it kind of expected it. It was on Sky and I was watching it, and the way we were playing, we were just getting deeper. And although they weren't creating a lot, you just felt that they'd have a chance. And obviously it came when it did. So very disappointing. And the performance wasn't great. But like you say, I'm sure we'll get onto that later on.
We will indeed. The kind of fight from a Danny Cowley side that Downsy could only dream of seeing. Anyway, we will get ourselves started by bringing in a very special guest for the show this evening. Delighted to say we are going to be joined, and we are joined by the Emley AFC boss, Richard Tracey. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
No, good evening. My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
No problem at all. Are you well?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, all good here, especially after 3 points at the weekend. So better form coming into tonight.
Absolutely. As you say, it has been, let's be honest, a pretty good start to the season. I say start, seems like almost halfway into the season now. But it's been a good season for you guys, obviously promoted from the NCL last season. And obviously on the back of a win at Sheffield at the weekend. How was Saturday's game?
It was a tough game. You know, I think the league table, it's got Sheffield at the bottom with one win, but all the reports that we'd had was, they're a very strong, competitive side. They don't get beat by many goals, and you'll have to work very hard to break them down. And it proved to be the case. I thought on the day they were excellent in what they did. We probably had the better chances. We've had a couple cleared off the line, hit the post. Keepers made a really good save, but it was limited to that really, other than a wonder goal that got us a 3 points.
Dancer?
Yeah, great to see you, Richard. I knew that I was going to get you on after a victory, mate, just to make sure, we were looking good. So obviously, like you say, bounce back after what's been a slight sticky patch. Sorry, I think we spoke about that. Myself and you for the Emley website, but it was nice to sort of bounce back with a victory and get some confidence back in the lads again.
Yeah, I think we've had a tough run of fixtures. Bradford Park Avenue have brought in a new manager, Craig Elliott, really experienced. We went there, got a good draw, a 2-2 draw with Dunstan, which they're an excellent team. Lost in the playoff final last year. Disappointingly, I think for us on that game, we were 2-1 up with 10 minutes to go. I think that's where the disappointment came out of that one. And then, a disappointing result against Cleethorpes, where I felt we played well for 20 minutes, but then conceded a poor goal and sort of folded there, really, which was disappointing. And then the Gareth game was probably our worst performance of the season. I thought we lacked quality in what we did. We still had a number of chances, couple of what now proved to be on the still photos, good goals disallowed for offside, which neither were, which we've got from the video. But I don't think we deserved to get anything out of the game. I thought Gareth had thoroughly deserved the 3 points. So yeah, it's been a tough run and a bit of a reality check for us all, I think, having had such a positive start. But yeah, nice to get back into winning ways on Saturday. We've took 6 points out of 9 now when you put the Heaton game into the mix as well. So we're really pleased with that.
And in terms of the league table, I know that it's not something that every manager looks at, but obviously we do here on the show. I mean, third at the moment in the league. I think it was probably when we came up into this division, it's a better expectation than what everybody dreamt of, really, in terms of that. As Chris says, the sort of start that we've had to the division.
Yeah, I think we've surprised ourselves a little bit. We knew we've got a lot of quality in the squad. Naturally, We've had to replace some players, having lost Ira and Ruben, which we didn't necessarily expect to lose in the summer, with them both going to Bury. That's a challenge in itself, trying to replace two players who've scored 60 goals between them for you the previous season, and coming up and sort of having such a great start. It's been really positive. We've hit a little bump, but what we've tended to do well this year is when things haven't gone well, we have had a bounce back. We've managed to get a win and go on another run, and hopefully Saturday can be the catalyst for that. But I think third place in the league, we'd have jumped at that and bit everyone's hands off at this point right now.
What's been so special at the club for you, Richard? I know, you've worked hard over the last 5 years to get the club to where it is now, but it has been a real sort of rocket ride, up the divisions. And there does seem to be a really special atmosphere at the moment at the club, and sort of maybe harks back to even times where you played for the club, that sort of real togetherness with everybody.
Well, I think since we've took over, I think what we've had is probably 3 or 4 different sides, with evolution. And every single one of them has been a good dressing room, a really good dressing room. And I think that's first and foremost. If you've got a group of lads who will all fight for each other, and Saturday was a really tough game as an example, and we dug in and worked really hard and managed together to get over the line. And we've had that over the years, but fundamentally the support from behind the scenes has allowed us to develop those sides and evolve those sides. The hard work that's gone on, in the development of the ground, in the increasing of the budgets to make us competitive, have all made our jobs, slightly easier. Yes, there's evidence out there, if you look at some other clubs, that you can have good budgets and not spend it wisely. I think we've done a pretty good job, year on year to develop and improve the side and try and be competitive where we've been. So, we couldn't have done that without the support from behind the scenes, but that doesn't come either if you're not getting fans through the gate. So, I think we were looking at 174, 175 average when we took over in the northwest counties to 470 odd now. So getting people through the gate helps, to support and finance that as well.
Yeah, you talk about that.
Sorry, Steve. How big a kind of gap have you found, obviously coming up from the NCL last season into the MPL East this season, in terms of the budget as well? How much of an increase have you had to put in, roughly, like to get to where you are, I guess, in competing at MPL East level from last season?
Well, we've probably gone up around 20 to 25%, but it was always going to be limited because at this level now, obviously we've got coaches to further away, which, you're looking at between £700, £800 a coach. We didn't have one in the NCL, with the fixtures being much closer proximity. So the on costs to the club are much bigger. Managing to raise the funds to support the development in the playing side, the ground, and obviously the commitment to travel, it's difficult, and they work really hard at that. In terms of the level of jump in football, I think the reality of it is everybody can beat everybody. If you're not on a good day, I think you'll get beat at this level. I think last year we might have a slightly off day and still manage to turn a result around. And I think that's where the Gareth, for example, where we still had quite a few shots, and worked the keeper, but we didn't play well. They win the game. That's the brutalness of this league, and we've had a bit of luck. There's been 1 or 2 games where teams probably had chances to hurt us and didn't, and then we've gone and won the game. So it has been difficult, sort of adjusting. But the difference isn't huge. I think to get out of any league and get promoted, you've got to be pretty close to the standard above.
The one above, yeah.
Yeah, I think the NCL is a tough league, and you look at the likes of Hallam, for example, who have got a pretty good budget. Silsden last year have sort of, I think, probably learned from last year and now top this year. I think, like you say, to be at the top end, you're not a million miles off that level, but you've got to go up and put it together and perform. And like you say, we've had to make 5 or 6 changes in the squad, and you kind of hope that they all fit into the dressing room and the click on the pitch as well. So that's kind of happened for us so far, and we're delighted.
And just following on from that, Richard, what sort of is the ambition for this season now? Obviously, you say pleasantly surprised to be third. Do did you come into it thinking we can do really well and we can compete at the top end? And if not, has that now changed and you think we can push on and go even higher than we thought we could?
Yeah, I think your last point there, we think we can push on and probably do better than we thought initially, and that's not knocking, what we were at. We've just not been in this level as a management staff for 5 years, and we've been shopping around, the NCL looking for the top players when we were in it. We've nicked one or two from the Northern Premier League clubs, but you don't quite know what the level is, against the week in, week out sort of opposition. And we've gone up, we've done really well. We've probably looked at this now, and our clear objective was to go up and stay up. Teams like Winterton coming up last year and coming back down, North Ferriby finishing sort of 10th, 12th. They were the two teams that came up the year before. We came up and we're like, well, we'd take Ferriby's season, out of the two that came up. But we've done really well. And we'd love to think that going into the last 6 or 7 games of the season, we're in the mix to get a playoff place. I think that's where our heads are at now. To sit there and say, yeah, we were top and we'd like to kick on and win the league. Are we ready as a club for that, for another push on, like you say, the increasing costs of travel and budget? I'm not 100% certain. But also, you look at Cleethorpes, for example, who've spent several £1,000s on a new left back a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. We just haven't got the resources that some of the other clubs that have had. And over a long year, that will, help them sort of kick on. And like you say, it's not always easy to get it right, but they're in a great position a third of the season in, and they've got the resources to push on if they need to. So I think it's going to be tough to really stay at the top end competing, But I think, if we can be within that mix of a playoff place, we'd be over the moon.
Great stuff.
I suppose it's for not just about this season though, Richard. It's about next season, because I know one of the things that managers at all levels, but particularly at non-league, you do have to have a look at the present, what's happening present. But I suppose you always have to, because of budgets and it's always difficult to try and get players in and things like that. You have to look ahead as well, don't you? And have one eye sort of where the potential could be, like Gaz says, so okay, if the club doesn't go up again this season, I'm sure the target next season is can we do even better next season.
Yeah, I think when we came into the club, we had a 5-year plan, and that was to get out of the NCL, and we achieved that even with the 2 broken seasons with COVID. We're putting a plan together now again to reflect on what we think we can achieve as a club. But you're absolutely right, Stephen. We're always looking at what we think we can do to improve, areas that we can be more solid. I mean, one of the statistics that I think is really fantastic for us is we've kept 16 clean sheets. A couple of those are in the county cup, but to come into a new league and be so defensively solid, especially with the injuries that we've had, none of the 3 sort of centre backs that play regularly, Adam Clayton, Jack Cowgill and Charlie Barks, have been available from the off. They've had injuries, holidays. So that they've rotated. Ross Hardacre has been outstanding when he's come in. Isaac Baldwin and who we brought in at the end of last year to give us competition at left back, has done really well this year. And then, Harry Shepherd, who we brought in from Rossington, this year's come in and done really well. So defensively, we've been sound. We're going to admit that the top end of the pitch has probably been a work in progress. Amir's come in, he's been on fire. We signed Mo Kazim. He picked up an injury in the Huddersfield Town game and has really struggled to get fit. He's had a good couple of runs now. Lawrence Hendo, who is a top class striker, but had an ankle reconstruction last year and missed all year. He's back in. He's got a couple of goals, but then it's kind of dried up a little bit for him again. So we've not quite hit the ground running at the top end of the pitch, but I think we're still second or third in terms of plus goal difference, and I think that's primarily down to our defence as such. But we know we can still improve, and we'll support the lads in trying to get there. And in the midfield, we've suffered a catastrophic number of injuries, and Tom Haig having an operation on his nose that's been planned for a couple of years that he needed to help with his breathing, and losing him, Donny with suspension. We've had some tough times, but like I said, having a good dressing room has really been positive for us. But yeah, we're always looking to strengthen, and give opportunity to some of the young lads as well. Some of the young lads who've come in the county cups have been outstanding for 16, 17-year-olds. Really, really proud of what they've achieved, and hopefully there's a bit of a pipeline there that can filter through to the first team to feed that end, as well as sort of players coming in at the other end that we bring in.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Table, Richard, looking at the league table, away from home, unbeaten. I think 7 wins and 3 draws. I mean, how crucial is the away form? What's the secret to it? And Gaz, as a Bradford City fan, I'm sure you will take some tips on away form, won't you? The way Bradford's going this season.
Yeah, it's all gone a bit the other way. We used to be good away from home, and we're not very good at away from home now. So maybe you can give them a few tips, Richard.
What's the secret, Richard?
I mean, for us, I think one of the things, it sounds crazy, does this, but I think our pitch has been so good that teams have loved to come and play on it. I think when we've gone away and we can, because we can be defensively solid, I think we can set up a little bit. For example, Sheffield's pitch was a tricky pitch to play on. I think we can set up and say, look, if we do the basics really well, I think we've got enough quality to win the game. We don't have to get the ball down and be as expansive. At home on our pitch, we want to play out from the back. We want to play through the thirds. That wouldn't have been a good strategy on Saturday, I don't think, for us. But I think that sort of suited us a little bit. But when we're at home and we want to be on the front foot and sort of pin teams back and play in their final third, we haven't quite been as successful. And I keep saying to the lads, we've got to make the welfare a bit of a fortress, and teams not wanting to come there because we're so solid at home. That's not been the case yet, but we've been carried with that brilliant away form.
Just 2 more, Richard, from me before we let you go, mate, for your evening. One, obviously, like you said, you mentioned about the catastrophic injuries that the club's had. I mean, I've spoke to you about that before, but it does seem, hopefully, now that the squad is getting a few of them injuries back, and you've got more people to go into the fixture this weekend against Ashington.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think we look at it now, and the bench, for the last 2 or 3 games now has looked a lot stronger than it was, over some earlier spells. I mean, on Saturday, we left Chris Dawson on the bench to protect him a little bit. He's struggling with his groin. But the injuries we've got now are more niggles rather than the lads being out. Adam Clayton had been poorly all week, so he dropped to the bench. Nath Curtis got a bit of a tweak in the warm-up. So we've got a couple of things to look at, but there's nothing that's going to be putting people out for 4 or 5 weeks, which is kind of the scenarios that we were having earlier. So naturally, as the squad sort of come back, some lads have made a choice to go and look for some football elsewhere. Sam Pashley, obviously has gone to Golker, as we mentioned. Stephen, I think he scored for them in a big game at the weekend, and we're delighted for him. Wally obviously taking the Ossett job. And then we've got a couple of lads out to get game time on dual registrations as well. Mo Malumbo's been at Goole, and Alassane Keita's actually just had a couple of run-outs for Golker this week. He lost his dad a couple of months ago, so he flew back to Guinea for the funeral and was there for a few weeks. So getting him back fit is important for the depth in the squad as well. So yeah, we feel like we're getting there. We're in talks about bringing somebody in who will give us some additional body across the midfield or up front. He's been playing at this level. We've got the 7 days in. It's been acknowledged, but we can't speak to him on Thursday. But he approached us, so hopefully he's keen enough to come in and just add a little bit more quality and depth to the options that we've got.
Yeah, there we are, Emley fans exclusive there. That there might be a new face on the team sheet very soon. Ashington this weekend, Richard, what are we expecting from them?
Yeah, obviously league table wise, they've not had a great start. Had a couple of, we knew Newton Aycliffe are not a bad side, having drawn away, and then they beat us in the trophy. They beat them midweek last week. Then Cleethorpes beat them. I spoke to Cleethorpes about them. They said they're quite direct, like to play on the counter attack, quick front lads. A lot goes through the goalkeeper, so they're happy to play at the back and play out through the keeper. So we'll just try and have a look at how they play, see if we can pick up some videos, have a watch of those, and put our plans together for the home game on Saturday, and hopefully, like you say, address our home form a little bit and put a performance and get a result in for the home fans.
Well, it's been absolutely terrific to have you on the podcast tonight, Richard. Really do appreciate it, mate. And as ever, we've got any of our non-league managers, coaches and players, Chris, the fact that Richard's come on after a full day at work and, he's just terrific, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for taking the time out of your evening, Richard, to join us.
Thanks,
My pleasure.
Richard.
Thanks very much for having us.
No worries at all. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a good
Cheers,
evening.
Rich. See you later, mate.
Bye.
Bye.
There we go. That's Richard Tracey, the Emley AFC manager. And I say, look, as you said, Steve, at the start of that, they have had that little bit of a blip. But, I mean, look at the table overall. Sitting third, 2 points behind the sides that are first and second. They're both on 39, Emley on 37. Emley have played a game more. But at this stage, like they could very well find themselves in a title race over the course of the season yet, Steve.
Yeah, they're like you said, they've had a little bit of a blip, but really, if you only look at the blip, I mean, they've only lost 2 and drawn 2 in that blip.
Yeah.
Yes, they've Cleethorpes and Belper, who are good sides by the way in that division.
Yeah.
They've managed to catch some points up, but as you rightly pointed out, Chris, the away form normally it's at this sort of level you count on your home form, don't you? You try and make your stadium a fortress. We've seen that before with Guiseley and Gareth and places like that, and Emley's definitely one of them where the home form has in the past last season been an absolute fortress, but it seems to be that they're very good on the road. So listen, hopefully they get back to winning ways. They have last weekend against Sheffield, and they play Ashington at home obviously this coming weekend. Town fans, if you're not going to the Charlton game, then get yourself down to Emley. But the one thing about that football club, Chris, is that over the last 5 years, they've sorted the ground out, they've sorted behind the scenes out. Me and Dave went there, last season, and had a full tour behind the scenes. The changing rooms are fantastic. The bar is a great little bar up there. I know you went for the town fixture in pre-season.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it, So listen, they're trying to do everything right, aren't they, Chris? From a non-league point of view, behind the scenes, and at the moment they're getting a lot right on the pitch as well.
Yeah, very, very much so. I'd say it was the first game that I ticked off for 24-25 was that town pre-season friendly. Strange game, town. But I was there to support last. I was there to support Lass Sorensen and support Emley. So
yeah.
Let's continue with the non-league scene then for our region. We'll kind of work back to the top and then work our way back down through the pyramid. So Halifax, they continued their reasonable form actually with a 1-0 win away at Yeovil Town. And look, Halifax, we've said it before, Stephen, we've said it before, Gaz, that if they can finish the season in a playoff place, I think they'll be very, very happy to do just that. And it's going all right for them at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, facts are, I shouldn't call them facts because Dave will have me head off, but Halifax are doing really well. I mean, the fact is that if they just win 1-0, it's a good result, isn't it? They just, as ever, they just need to keep pace with those playoff places. And they could sneak in there. But yeah, it's great to see Millington doing so well. And as I think we said either last week or the week before, he's underrated as the job that he's done at Halifax. And hopefully Dave will continue to see a couple more wins. But yeah, it's really positive.
Yeah, absolutely. That win against Yeovil at the weekend saw them leapfrog Yeovil, in fact, to move into the final playoff place. 7th FC Hearts Town on 29 points. As I say, going well at the moment, Gaz.
Yeah, like Downsy says, the longer you stay in touch with those playoff places, you're always in with a shout. Teams can finish, like you said, 6th, 7th and go up. And Halifax are always there and thereabouts. And 1 year, you never know, getting those playoffs. 1 year, they're going to make it and they're going to get back in the league. So good luck to them. Hopefully they can keep going. Like you said, they're in the playoff places now. Let's hope they stick around there and they're in there at the end of the season.
Absolutely. As for Farsley Celtic, they were in FA Trophy action at the weekend. They won by a goal to 0 away at Bamber Bridge. They have been drawn away at Gateshead in the third round of the FA Trophy. Halifax as well have been drawn away at
a team I've never heard of, I'll be honest.
Is it Bradford? I can't remember.
Bradford.
It's Bradford United, isn't it?
Yeah.
Leicestershire. I had to think then, because they're both Leicestershire clubs, I think.
I mean, they should win that. Farsley Celtic's tie is very difficult, but...
yes, Farsley have been handed...
probably the worst tie of the round, I'd say. Or one of them.
certainly one of. There's not many harder places to go at the moment this season than Gateshead, and that is a tough one. After Halifax away at Northern Prem side, Baseford United. So again, a game that Town should definitely see themselves through in that one. Into the Northern Premier League in Guiseley, Will Longbottom just cannot stop scoring. We've talked about him a lot on the show over the course of the season. Guiseley won 2-0 against Hebburn Town at the weekend, and Will Longbottom scored them both, which means it's goals 15 and 16 for him of the season so far. That is what you call a man in form, Gaz.
Absolutely. Can we have him to partner Andy Cook, please? We're desperate for somebody up front, but anybody that scored that many goals, Chris, is going to be being looked at by teams above them. Like, hopefully they can hang on to him. Like I say, I don't follow non-league as closely as you guys, but I do keep seeing that Guiseley are picking up the results. So fingers crossed they can keep it going. And with a striker like that, at any level, you've got a chance.
That win puts them level with second and third, so it's very tight at the top. I say tight at the top. If we ignore Macclesfield, the rest of the league is very tight. Macclesfield currently top 44 points from their 16 games this season, and then there's a 13-point gap to Worksop Town in second, Guiseley who are third, and Heron Town all on 31 points. Ashton on 29, Stockton and Hyde 28, Lancaster on 27. Ilkeston 26 and 10th. So there's only 6 points between 10th and second as it stands. So it is very, very close in what is without a doubt going to be a very, very entertaining race for the playoffs coming into the season, lads.
Yeah, well, the Worksop are a very good team.
There's money behind them as well, and
there's money.
It does show.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but I mean, you can tell at non-league level, particularly, the further down the leagues you go, when a team's got money. I mean, Macclesfield are the Birmingham of that league, without a doubt. But yeah, Worksop are a good team. Listen, if Guiseley can just, again, a bit like Halifax, really, but probably more to do with the, even further up the table, as it were. But if they can just stay there, if, grind results out, get the 1-0s, get the 2-1s, then they can definitely have a chance of promotion, which would be brilliant to see. Like, I think it's been a tough few years, hasn't it, for Guiseley, if we're being honest. Not just on the pitch either, off the pitch in some senses. So it'd be nice to see them have some good luck for a change.
Yeah, I'd say it's going very well at the moment for Mark Bauer's side, and I'd say for Will Longbottom in particular. Into the MPL East, then over the course of the weekend, Liverpool, Josie, we spoke to Ryan Toulson last week or the week before. Sometimes the weeks just roll into one. The week before, we spoke to Ryan Toulson. They sadly were beaten away at Bishop Auckland. Not an easy place to go. They lost 2-0 there. Bradford Park Avenue, they got a 1-1 draw at home to Dunstan, who, as Richard mentioned earlier on, were last season's MPL East losing playoff finalists. Bringhouse Town, they were also beaten at home, this time by Concert, 2 goals in the first 9 minutes, the difference in that one. Gareth, they got a good win over Sherwood Colliery, grounded out with a 1-0 win to keep their recent upturning form going. Pontefract Collieries, they drew 1 apiece away at North Ferriby United. James Walshaw's Ossett, they were held at home to a goalless draw by Carlton Town. And then finally, as mentioned before, that 1-0 win for Emley away at Sheffield.
I think it's worth, Chris, just going through with how many teams there are in that division, just quickly saying the league positions. Obviously, Emley are third, which is good to see. You've got Bradford Park Avenue in 7th at the moment. They're on 29 points. Only 3 points, behind the last playoff place, which is Stocksbridge. Gareth in 8th, which is a good position for them, Chris. They'll be happy at the moment with them.
Yeah, both Gareth and Emley, to be fair, have taken to the MPL East pretty bloody well, let's be honest. Obviously, Emley sitting third, and for Gareth, who over the course of the summer didn't make a great deal of changes. There was very few outgoings, very few new arrivals as well, actually. Paul Marshall kind of kept together just a squad that he's kind of been working on for the last couple of years there. And there's maybe something in this, because whilst Richard mentioned there's been some changes in that Emley squad, a lot of it, especially in the back line, is still the same, isn't it? So actually, there's something to be said into at non-league level, where if you can keep a solid unit that has played together for more than a season or more, then actually it can guide you a long way.
I think it's the same at any level, Chris. I think wherever you are, people build partnerships around the pitch. You talk about it at centre half. You can talk about it at left-hand side or the right-hand side. Continuity, especially defensively, makes a really big difference. So if they're managing to keep hold of the same players, it can only board them in good stead for me.
Yeah, moving down the the table just in that league quickly, Chris. Obviously, Pontefract Collar is in 13th at the moment, sort of mid-table, but I think they're far enough really from any sort of trouble. Then you've got Liversedge. They're in 16th. They're a little closer to the problem down there. Only 2 points above the relegation zone. You've got Brighouse Town. They are now in the relegation zone and struggling actually on 16 points. And Osset sits second bottom with obviously Wally and James Walshaw taking over just recently as manager. They've played 17 games, got minus 22 goal difference, and are only on 12 points. So, for Brighouse and for Osset particularly, Chris, it's and Liversedge actually, for them three sides, it's looking like a bit of a dogfight.
It is, yeah. I'm just thinking tomorrow night, Bradford Park Avenue are due to be away at Osset. I'll be honest, if we get the snow that is currently forecast for this neck of the woods, and I can't see that game being on, but that Yorkshire derby will either be off or very cold and quite the. It could also be quite an entertaining game, Obviously, Avenue sitting seventh away at second bottom Osset, but Osset need the points, and I'd say James Walshaw gone in, knows this area like the back of his hand. Has played for many a club in this region as well, and it could be a good game. So should it be on, it could be a good one to get to. Dropping down into the Northern Counties East League, where I can find the relevant tab that I opened earlier. It was a mixed weekend, I think it's fair to say. We'll start with the side that are top of the league, Silsden. They got a 1-0 win away at Bradford side Campion. Casey Stewart's goal in the first half was enough to give Silsden a win. 12 games on the bounce for them now. They are on an almighty run of form, Steve.
Yeah, does who is it still play for them? What's his name? The striker, is it Payne?
Give us a clue.
Lad that were at Staten. That's it. Cale Price. Yeah, sorry, Cale Price.
Yes, he does indeed, and he still knows where the back of the net is. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. And look, I know Matt Kavanagh reasonably well. I went to college with him many years ago. He won't thank me for saying this, but how Cale Price is still at Silsden, I do not know. He's the epitome of poacher.
I think they will be expecting, with the start that they've had and obviously the run of form that they're on, they will probably now be expecting to win the league. I think they'd be disappointed if they didn't. Well, if they didn't go, definitely.
There is a disclaimer on this, though. There is a disclaimer on that, I think, because they are only 2 points ahead of Golka, same amount of games played as well. So it's look, we've said a few weeks over the course of the last few weeks actually that the playoff places, in particular for the West Yorkshire sides, have been looking very, very good. Silsden, as I say, recruiting at the moment. We'll go through the results and then we'll look at the league table. Fackley, who were in the playoff places before the weekend, are no longer there. They were beaten heavily at Beverley Town by 4-0. Elsewhere, Golka, they did get a good win. Sam Pashley on the score sheet with a 3-0 win away at Penistone Church. And finally, for the West Yorkshire sides in that league, Ecclesfield United were beaten away at Rossington Main by 1-0. So the table is Silsden are currently top, 45 points from 19 games. Golka, 43 points from 19 games. Then there is a gap back to 34 points. 17 games played, though, for Albion Sports. A couple of games in hand for Albion. Penistone are also on 34 points, but have played 4 games more than Albion Sports. They've also played 2 games more than Beverley Town, who sit 5th with 33 points. Then Fackley, 18 played, 32 points. Eccleshill and Campion are down in 12th and 13th, respectively, level on 22 points. And that is and Tadcaster Albion as well, one of our, just on the periphery of our region, 19 points from 19 games played.
So just a quick one on that. Just a quick one on that then. I think Golka are on a very similar, or have been trying to be on a similar journey to Emley. They've followed them up every division so far, just the season after, which has been quite funny to see. Obviously, I did a bit of reporting on Golka United with Ash Connor and Gav Connor as the two brothers as managers there. But do you think Campion will be a bit disappointed, Gaz and Chris, with their position? I know that they, over the last few seasons they've been looking to, particularly last season, I think they've challenged, Emley quite a lot to go up, really.
Yeah, they were in and around that kind of title race / playoffs, weren't they, last season? Obviously beaten in the playoff semi-finals last season by Albion Sports. I think the summer kind of took a little bit of a toll. They lost, obviously, Paddy Sykes in particular, who went to Bradford Park Avenue. They lost, I think, 2 or 3 other regulars from last season. And whilst they have recruited fairly well on paper, I remember in pre-season talking to Shep up there and them saying that they were having like 35, 40 odd trialists in just to have a look and kind of run the rule over players. But obviously, when you've got that many players that you're looking at, it suggests that the squad will have had a bit of a change, obviously, since the summer. So I think it's a bit of a yes and no. I think you can't always be, at some point you're bound to have a season where it just levels out a little bit and you have a bit of a mid-table season. Look, that might just be all that this. Hopefully, this season might be at worst for Campion, that kind of middling season, where they can hopefully look to build again and go next season back up the top end. I think the difference, this season is that perhaps there's 1 or 2 more sides that have, that are certainly up there. Thackley in particular were around the playoffs, but they're now really kind of trying to be in that playoff mix this season. They've put the foot on the gas a bit. Hallam are always likely to be up there. Penistone, I think, have pushed up a bit from last year. And I say Albion Sports are kind of going there again. So it's a very competitive league, is the NCL. We say it about most divisions, but on any given day, it could be anyone.
Disclaimer: we're hoping to go watch Thackley in a couple of weeks, so they'll probably lose when we turn up, guys.
Well,
hopefully not.
It's Thackley versus Silsden. Well, you say that it's Thackley versus Silsden, so we've got a foot in both camps with this one. 30th of November at Thackley. Yes, so we're supposed to be. We're hoping to get down to that one. I just hope that with the start of this cold weather, that the game actually does go ahead.
We'll have to work out, but 3 of us will have to go in Silsden end, and 4 of us will have to go in Thackley. Home section.
The fact that you think there's going to be ends for Thackley
Silsden
is cute. Steve. Very cute.
There's a big rivalry there. I've heard it.
Segregation.
Yeah, segregation. Yeah, Thackley fans are going to turn up with all flares and
What were you going to have to do? Like keep you and Dave apart or something? If you're back in a different team for the afternoon, as long as you've made up by the curry afterwards. Yes. Into the the NCL Division 1, the sides in our region. Nostell Miners Welfare, they beat Glassalton Welfare by 2-0. South Leeds, they also won by 2-0 against Club Thornton Colliery. Ilkley Town, they were beaten by Yorkshire Amateur. Now, it's let's be honest, it's a rare win for Yorkshire Amateur. Is that they are bottom of the league with just 7 points. However, and as it stands, they are 12 points adrift of safety as well. But a big win for them over Ilkley Town, who were in a playoff place as well before that weekend's game. So again, like we said about the NCL Prem, quite literal, the example of anyone can beat anyone there with rock bottom Yorkshire Amateur, who had 4 points all season, beating playoff chasing Ilkley. The side that have taken Ilkley's place in the playoffs, as we've talked about for a few weeks of their good form, is Wakefield. They beat Athersley Recreation by 4-0 in front of over 300 over at Featherstone. So Wakefield now sitting 5th. So Horbury, who were not in action on Saturday. In fact, bear with me 1 second. They were in action on... No, they weren't. I thought they were in action on Friday and they beat me. It was Albion Sports that were in action last Friday night. They got a 3-1 win. So Horbury sit top of the NCL Division 1. Then it's Durham District, Wombwell Town, South Leeds and Wakefield making up the playoff places. Ilkley sitting 6th. And finally, the North West Counties side of the pyramid for us, and a couple of sides in our region. Bonaldswick Town, they drew 2-2 at home to Earlham. And in the Northwest Counties First Division North, Route 1 Rovers were beaten by 3-2 at home against AFC Blackpool as their tricky start to the season continues, and Steeton weren't in action. So I think that does just about round up the full story from the non-league scene. For Barlick, though, we said before that I think they're sitting nicely mid-table. They're, I think, only about 7 or 8 points off the playoffs and about 15 points clear of relegation. So they're not in any danger. I'm just going to double check the table as well for the NCO because Bury, I know it's not in our region, but you don't see an 8-0 scoreline often. They won 8-0 at Gig Lane on Saturday against Longridge Town, and they are still not top of the league, would you believe? They are second as it stands behind Ramsbottom United.
And how many levels below the league is that? Below
what,
League
for
Two?
Bury?
Yeah. How far have they got to come back?
That'll be, if I'm right in thinking, 6. So you've got League 2, you then got National League North, Northern Prem, East, West and Central, Northwest Counties Prem. So that'll be 9. It'll be 9 for Bury, and 10 is Steeton and Route 1 Rovers, for example.
A long way back, isn't it?
It's
9 for more.
Well, the thing for Bury is because obviously they all thought they were going to piss the league last season. The fans were, understandably, as you would kind of expect them to with the budgets and everything they've got. And then they lost in the playoffs to Wythenshawe. So they set themselves back a season, losing in the playoffs. And as I say, they're still in the place now and not even running away with the league. So, that, as Richard mentioned earlier on as well, is taking the 2 strikers from Emley that got 60-odd goals last season for Bury.
Yeah.
Who were very good players, guys, by the way. Very,
Ruben
very
Jerome
good players.
And Aaron Gooden, superb players. But still goes to prove it, even at that level, money and success and attendances of like 3,500 still doesn't guarantee you being top of the Northwest Counties Prem. Madness, isn't it? Absolute madness. Let's move on then to Bradford City to League 2, Gaz. And for Bradford, look, we touched on it earlier, a late show from Colchester United earned them a point and broke the hearts of the 600 plus travelling City fans, sadly.
Yeah, I said last week our record there is not great, so it was quite exciting to think that we were finally going to win at Colchester. I watched most of the game as it was on Sky Sports Plus. It was my daughter's birthday, so I didn't see the very start of it. I actually turned the TV on, and just not long after I turned it on, Cook scored to put us 1-0 up. It was a little bit disappointing after that. I thought that we tried to sit back a little bit and defend what we had, especially second half. In a way, we were trying to do the dark arts, which you see teams often do at Valley Parade, come in wasting time, going down with injuries, etc., etc. And you could just had a nasty feeling that it might come back and bite us, which is funny because a lot of City fans have been on at us to embrace the dark arts a little bit like teams do against us and sort of buy into it a bit because we don't do it enough. And then the time we try and do it, it comes back and bites us. It was only going to be 5 minutes added on at the end. And then Lewis Richards has gone down a couple of minutes before the 90th and he's dislocated his shoulder and he's been down on the pitch for a while. And 5 minutes has been doubled to 10. And they've scored in the 99th. Very, very disappointing. It was one of those where they'd had a lot of the ball, but we had embraced the dark arts and we defended quite resolutely, really, even though they'd been very intense and we'd sat back. They hadn't had a lot of attempts on our goal, but you did feel that one would come, and then they pushed the goalkeeper up for that last corner, and all 22 players were in the City area. And if you've seen it, the lad's totally free at the back post, and he's actually headed it down, and it's hit his foot. As he's headed it down, he's headed it onto his foot. And as Sam Walker's gone to save it, it's hit his foot and bounced up over Sam Walker and gone into the goal. So it's a bit of a fluke goal, but
technically, does that mean he's teed
in a way?
Does that mean technically he's teed himself up for the volley?
Yeah, in a way, one body part onto the other, and it's disappointing. But like I said, when you sit back like that, you're kind of asking for it. What's more disappointing is that we're just injury after injury at the moment. We just can't catch a break, and we've lost 2 more on Saturday. Like I said, Lewis Richards has gone down and dislocated his shoulder and presumably will be out for quite a while. And those minutes that had to be added, the lads on oxygen on the pitch and then on oxygen in the dressing room, and those minutes that have had to be added on of what have helped Colchester score the goal. And we lost Callum Cavanagh apparently in the warm-up to a tight groin, so that's another injury. We just can't catch a break, like I say. left wing backs now, Tariq Wright, Lewis Richards, both injured. So you would imagine that Clark Oduor is going to have to play there, who himself has only just come back from injury. You would imagine he'll be shifted in there. As a fan, I do not want to see Bobby Poyton played at left wing back like Graham Alexander's tried to do before. And we're just struggling to, like I've said numerous times on the show, we're struggling to find a partner for Cook, which is hugely disappointing because at the end of last season, we were a real goal threat for the first time in a while. Calvin Kavanagh was the man up there. He struggled to find last season's form. Tyler Smith, to me, just doesn't look good enough. Verdane Oliver's only good enough to be the Andy Cook backup. And Ollie Sanderson, goodness knows what's happened with him because he was really, really good for a short spell and gone really off the boil. He started on Saturday for the first time in a while. So hopefully he can refine some form while Kavanagh's out and they can form a partnership with Andy Cook. But disappointing. We'll look disappointing going forward. Like I said, we're too reliant on Cook and the injuries defensively are really costing us. So we need to catch a break and hopefully that'll come against Accrington on Saturday.
I know you mentioned, and Jamie Rayner mentioned when you were on BBC Radio Leeds earlier on this evening that start of Bradford City, since the 1920 season, Bradford City have conceded the third highest amount of goals after the 85-minute mark in every team that's been in League Two since. 39, was it Swindon, I think, was second on 40, and Colchester United, ironically, with a side that conceded the most after the 85-minute mark with 48. I mean, I'll kind of ask you the same sort of question that Jamie did, to be honest, because, I mean, it goes to show the fact that it's happened so long since the return to League Two in the 1920 season, that this isn't just a Graham Alexander thing. It's very much a Bradford City problem. How do you even resolve this? I mean, clearly no manager since then has been able to.
Yeah, the first point I want to make is there was a turn on social media on Saturday. Fans starting to have a go at Alexander, and I think that's always going to happen when you concede a late goal and you're expecting to win. But we just need to realise that sacking managers has got us absolutely nowhere over the last however many years, and it's about time we tried something different and stuck with somebody. I would like to see how he does when he has a fully fit squad or gets some of the players back. We've been really up against it, like I say, with injuries this season. And like you just said there, Chris, like this isn't a problem that is unique to Graham Alexander and this City team. This is an issue that we've had for the last 4 or 5 years where we concede a lot of late goals. The year that we made the playoffs under Mark Hughes, we conceded a heck of a lot of late goals, and it was getting to the stage at the end of the season where you were looking and saying, if we hadn't conceded in the 90th there and we hadn't conceded in the 89th there, maybe we'd have made the automatics. What you do about it, I don't know. Is it a mentality thing? To me, if it's a long-running thing at the club, it is perhaps a mentality or a fitness thing. Are the players knackered when it gets to that late in the game? Are the players feeling the weight of the pressure of playing for Bradford when it gets late in the game? What we have done this season is brought in a lot of experienced players and a lot of what you might call winners, but we have missed them with injury. Sarcevic has been out for a while. Aidan Baldwin's been out for a while. Neil Burns come back 2 or 3 weeks ago, having had a long layoff himself. So maybe getting the experienced players back might make a difference in that respect. Like I said, we tried to manage the game out on Saturday. You could see what we were trying to do second half, and it's just bitten us with that Lewis Richards injury. But yeah, I know they've tried to work on the fitness side of things this season. So hopefully that's not the issue that it's been before, because there's been a long-running thing at Bradford where we've said that we've not been fit since Phil Parkinson left. We do look better. Alexander's tried to focus on that over pre-season. He's brought in they're trying to revamp the fitness side of things. So hopefully that's not the issue, and you can't blame the late goals on that. But all I can say is you just got to, like you said, manage the game, and hopefully the experienced heads coming back will make a difference to us conceding these late goals. I think it's possibly the first time we've conceded late this season, but it has been an issue for 4 or 5 years now.
Two things from me. One is, to me, I've seen the goal, by the way, and I think it's just a loss of concentration by literally everybody in the box, which actually amazes me to say that all 22 players were in there. You know, to me, Gaz, I think you've got to say that there's a bit of responsibility needs taking. That's nothing to do with fitness for me. Yeah, tiredness, yes, but nothing actually physically to do with fitness. I think that's to do with concentration and people taking responsibility and going, right, have we got everybody marked in the box? Don't leave your man. It's it's in the last minute of the game. If the goalkeeper comes and collects it, or it goes 10 mile over the stand or whatever, you've won the game. It's one corner left. And the second thing I just want to bring up is I find it absolutely. I mean, yes, it happens in all fan bases. We know that, and it happens more in certain fan bases. But I really do think at Bradford, they just sometimes you have a section of City fans that are just not happy whatever manager manages the football club, unless it's probably an absolute staunch club legend that's played like 500 games for you. I just don't think people want a progressive manager like Graham Alexander.
Hang on. I think Gaz can read my mind here.
You're thinking Stuart McCall, aren't you, Chris?
But no, I'll be honest. What I'm more thinking is, hang on. Downsy here is calling out section of the fan base for wanting Graham Alexander to go when Huddersfield in crisis not 6 weeks ago.
No, you're inflating a point to make a point, and well done for doing that. You're a clever lad.
A lot of fan bases are very similar to the others. You know that, Downsy.
But can I explain? Right. Huddersfield Town fan base, and this is Bradford City section, so I won't go on about Town because Gaz needs to go at past. But what I will say is that Huddersfield Town fans are very are not a vociferous fan base, but there is a point of the City fan base that hasn't been happy since Parkinson left, and that's over 6-7 years now. Is it, Gaz?
It's more than that.
More than that now, yeah.
Yeah,
coming up to 10.
So how many managers, a City had in that time, and how many truly has the entire fan base got behind? I can name 2 in the last 10 years that Town fans have: Neil Warnock and David Wagner, and to some extent Carlos Corberan. The others not, because they're all numpties. But City fans, I can't name one in the last 10 years that every City fan, more or less, has got behind. Am I right, Gaz? Or am I wrong there?
Right, let's deal with the managers first. Yeah, 100%. But I think that largely comes from the high expectation and is constantly underachieving. But I will make the point that people need to realise that, like as I said before, when you keep doing the same thing and it doesn't work, why do you keep demanding that they keep doing it? So surely you've got to, at some point, give a manager time to try and work on things. So yes, you have a point. Yes, there is the expectation. There's constant underachievement. I hope, and I do think that with David Sharp involved, we will give Alexander more time. And there is the caveat that injuries have just absolutely decimated us this season so far. So hopefully people will take that into account and we will stick with somebody. I've said that, you've got to try something different. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. I wouldn't be changing manager unless we're in a relegation battle or next season we're miles off the playoffs. I'd be giving him the rest of this season and into next season. When it comes to the goal on Saturday, again, I think you're spot on, Steve. The fact of the matter is that someone's got to take responsibility. Jay Ben was interviewed after the game and said, that man's unmarked. That cannot be allowed to happen. Somebody's not concentrating there, because for somebody to have that amount of space, somebody's not doing the job to give him that space in the box in the last minute. Obviously, the caveat to that is, Graham Alexander said in his post-match that when it gets to that stage of a game and everybody's coming into the box, it gets to the stage where you've just got to grab a man and say, he's my man, I'm marking him, he's not winning the ball. But if the goalkeeper's there as well, is there an argument that there is going to be a spare man, because our goalkeeper's not going to be marking somebody? So,
well, he's not Jimmy Glass. He's, unless he might be Jimmy Glass. He might be Jimmy Glass's son. He might score. But
you leave the keeper, don't you? In my argument is, if you're going to leave anybody, you leave the keeper, and you make sure that the outfield players are all marked up. So somebody has not done the job there. And although you don't want to start having a go at people, there has got to be some digging out in that dressing room and say who was meant to be marking him, because it's your responsibility.
I don't agree with that. Just grabbing anybody's shirt. You've got a plan before the game. You know who's marking him.
Yes, but it is different though. I appreciate that in 95% of the corners that will take place in a 90-minute match. But at that stage, when it's literally everybody's up, things do change.
Yeah,
there's a minute left. There's a minute left.
What I mean though is, in terms of what you're saying though about preparation and planning, like 99% of the time, you're not planning the defensive aspects of a corner, factoring in that both fullbacks, 2 centre halves, all the midfielders, like everybody's in. You know what I mean? Like you don't end up with a list of 11 players of who's marking who.
Takes 3 seconds to go right. There's the plan.
I think that's what Graham Alexander was saying. That obviously Steve's right. 95% of the, and what you said, Chris, 95% of the game, everyone knows what they're doing at a corner. But when the fullbacks go in, the keeper goes in, and literally all 22 players are in the box. To a certain extent, that goes out the window, and it's grab a man. I don't mean grab his shirt and foul him. I mean you pick a man and you mark him, and you make sure he doesn't win the ball before you. I think that's what Graham Alexander was saying, and I think that's what Chris is saying there as well.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just I hate to say it, Gaz. It's just the kind of late determination.
I will always remember on the Warnock documentary.
Side. And on that bombshell,
I will always remember on the Warnock documentary. Right, a corner comes in. Hang on, and a corner comes in, and Warnock goes. I think Julian Lescott scores for Wolves, and he goes, "Why did you lose his man? Why did you lose his man?" And the guy and the defender goes, "Well, you just pick up whoever. You know, it's last minute. You pick up whoever." And Warnock goes, "If he scores, I take the blame, not you, because you've picked up your man. But because you didn't pick up your man and he scored, I'm putting the blame on you." And I think that's right.
Actually,
anyway,
I remember that. I do. On that note, we are going to wrap it up there. We'll talk a little bit more about Bradford. Just remind me, Gaz. Tomorrow night, is it Rotherham in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, and then a game against Accrington at the weekend?
Correct. Yeah, if the game goes ahead tomorrow, obviously, even over here in Lancs and over where you are in Yorks, I know there's a lot of snow forecast. So yeah, if the game goes ahead, it is Rotherham in the Bristol Street Motors. I think City are already qualified, but could finish top of the group if they win that game tomorrow. And then Accrington at home in the league, and Accrington have had a little bit of a resurgence lately in form, having had a really tough start. I know they've got a lot of young lads in the side, so they aren't the whipping boys that they were early in the season, so we're going to have to be on it there as well.
You're going to be getting a lift over from given that you're Aki based.
Well, my mate who's
friends.
Yeah, well, my mate who's a season ticket holder can't actually go because he's working, so I'll be going over and picking my dad up and going the game. So yeah,
enjoy.
Yeah,
we'll
stay safe, everybody in the snow.
If it comes, as it stands, it hasn't started yet. It was forecast to start in Bradford a couple of hours ago, so we've had nothing yet. We'll see what happens. But if you do get it, stay safe. And a big thank you to everyone that has watched and has joined us tonight here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Big thank you as well to Richard Tracey, the Emley AFC manager, who joined us at the start of the show for a chat about their season so far. From myself, though, and from Steve and Gaz, we'll be back next week on next Monday's West Yorkshire Football Show. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see you soon.